So what's your plan with all the photos?
Abby is picky when it comes to dating. To her, commitments are forever and she only wants to settle down when the man of her choice is worth it. She has been dating Steven, who thought Abby was ready to take the next step into a new phase of their relationship. But Abby is not so sure about that. Her best friend Megan only wants to see her happy, so she is worried that Abby may never settle down with anybody. Abby has been having trouble sleeping well. She has been having a recurring dream, in which she is in the middle of nowhere surrounded by eagles as they fly around her in the sky. Megan thinks such a dream must mean something if it keeps happening every time she goes to sleep. Dreams have meaning and can be interpreted in many ways. Megan thinks that since Sky rhymes with guy, she must be meeting the right man sometime soon. Abby finds her friend's interpretation hilarious. She is glad Megan is not a shrink. Abby and Megan work in the same office. Megan tries to set her up with Harry, their coworker, who is glad to hear that Abby broke up with her boyfriend. Megan gives Harry some tips to win Abby's heart, but the man is a nervous mess who ends up embarrassing himself before Abby. Harry tries to ask Abby out to see a concert, but that does not go well. She thinks it is too soon for her to start dating again. And even if she was willing to give a guy a chance in the near future, it would certainly not be Harry. Abby starts researching eagles. They have become a fully protected and endangered species in the 1970s, and this has been documented by a woman in Alaska called Alice Hughes. Abby's supervisor David thinks that she should track down the woman because she has disappeared after releasing her findings. He wants her to conduct research to see what happened to the species 50 years later. Abby thinks that is a good idea and assumes she will be researching this online. But her supervisor lets her know that he meant offline, which means Abby should follow the woman's steps all the way to Alaska. Abby is not used to the outdoors, so she finds it difficult to believe that that is what is expected of her. Abby is baffled by David's project. She thinks it was so vague and is afraid to venture into the wilderness. She doesn't know how she will do it. Megan thinks she should trust David because he knows what he is doing. Besides, it will be a great experience. David already planned out everything. He even spoke to Alice, who invited Abby to come visit her somewhere near Seattle. Alice meets Abby. She tells her that she read her bio, which she found very impressive. Alice's first journey was after her boyfriend went to Vietnam and he never returned. The trip was very difficult for her and she still bears scars from it, but she had the help of a young Native American named Jocko and a Denali ranger called George. Alice was called the hippie hiker and her report was never published because she had no credentials. Abby thinks it would be interesting to compare Alice's findings with a new measurement. Abby tells Alice that she will go back to Eagle's Crest to use a measuring matrix to count eaglets. Abby wants people to know what is happening today versus what was recorded 50 years ago. Alice thinks it is a great idea, but she gives her two conditions. Abby can never reveal where Eagle's Crest is. She does not want a bunch of birdwatchers to ruin the area. Also, she can only publish her report if Alice approves it in writing. Abby promises her that there will be no story without her approval. Since the trip is dangerous, Alice thinks she knows the right person to accompany Abby. Abby does not know what she got herself into. Alice tells her that there are rivers, grizzlies, and wolves. Abby may not survive on her own. She is a courageous woman and she was not going to let that get in her way. Abby follows Alice's instructions and she is positive that she will get the adventure of a lifetime. Abby arrives at Lakeside Lodge. As she enters the place, she finds a young man, Eric, playing a beautiful song on the piano. She guesses the title of the song incorrectly and Eric asks how he can help her. Abby tells him that she is looking for Ellen Rivers. Eric lets her know that Ellen is away and she will be back in the morning. Eric assumes that Abby is there for the fishing, but she tells him that she will be heading to Eagle's Crest. Eric thinks she is a birdwatcher. Abby almost reveals the purpose behind her trip, but she holds back. Eric tells her that the place is closed. The following morning, Abby meets Ellen, who shows her the lake. They speak about Eric because Ellen thought he would be the one to guide her to Eagle's Crest. Although Abby thinks his company would be unnecessary, Ellen deems it essential. Eric does not come across as friendly at first, but he is a really wonderful guy. Abby captures an eagle's photograph. She is fascinated by its beauty. This is the first time she gets to work on a project out in nature. Abby finds Eric again and he is just as distant and cold as last time. Abby tries to start a conversation, but he is a man of few words. Abby tries to explain to him what she is trying to do. Although it is a long story, Abby gives him the short version. She tells him that she is a professional ornithologist. Eric gets under her skin again by calling her a professional birdwatcher. He thinks it is the same thing. Eric is familiar with Alice's study and because he respects the woman a lot, he agrees to take Abby there. Abby asks Eric if he has ever met the incredible woman, and he shocks her by revealing that Alice is his grandmother. Alice did not tell her that Eric is her grandson. He thinks Abby must have impressed Alice if she agreed to this. Abby thinks her interaction with Eric was interesting. Ellen tells her that Alice raised Eric and her father was involved as well, and he happens to be Jocko, the man Alice spoke so highly of. Abby is excited to meet him because she thinks he must have a lot of stories to share with her. Jocko and Ellen can't imagine ever leaving the lodge. It makes them feel close to her mother who passed away 5 years prior. As a way to honor his late wife, Jocko started writing children's books to teach their traditions. Ellen thinks that Abby will be in good hands with Eric. He knows all about the area, and he is a great man. Abby has lunch with Eric, Ellen, and her husband Nico. Abby tells them that she has recently shown interest in eagles, although she studied the migratory patterns of snow geese in college. Abby calls herself a lab girl. She is not really used to being in the field. Eric asks Abby if she is sure about her decision because the hike to Eagle's Crest is not easy. He is worried she might hurt herself on the way up, but Abby is determined to achieve her goal. Abby smiles at Eric, knowing that he thinks she can't do it. So, Abby wants to prove him wrong, to make him realize that she is tougher than she looks. Megan calls Abby to tell her that Harry keeps asking about her. Harry is worried about her well-being. He is afraid he might never see her again. Abby reassures him that she will be fine. She tells Megan about Eric. She has not figured him out yet, and that seems to bother her. He is a classically trained pianist and also a fishing guide, which sounds enigmatic. Megan is happy that her friend gets to have such a crazy adventure. Eric explains the trail they are supposed to follow. Abby assumes there will be a hotel where they will spend the night since they will spend the night away from the lodge. Eric informs her that the only kind of accommodation she will be getting is a tent. Abby pretends to be fine with climbing 2 big mountains in one day while carrying a 30-pound pack. But deep inside, Abby is screaming in fear. Eric helps Abby wear her gear. Although she finds it incredibly heavy, she pretends she is fine with it, but she ends up falling on the ground. Ellen and Nico wish Abby good luck as she sits on the canoe. Abby is taken aback by its unsteadiness, but she pretends that she knows what she is doing. Eric teaches her how to do it right. Ellen then spots an eagle in the sky, and it reminds Abby of her recurring dream. Ellen tells Abby that they believe eagles are messengers between humans and the Creator, even in dreams. Abby tells Eric that she loved hearing him play the piano. Eric does not only play classical music, he plays all kinds of genres. She wonders if he knows how to play an eagle's song, but Eric thinks she should earn it by paddling a little more seriously. Ellen introduces Abby to her father, Jocko, who welcomes her warmly. Eric's description of the tent she was supposed to sleep in did not leave much for the imagination. She thought it would be horrible, but Abby can see now that it is more like glamping as her tent is fabulous. Abby wants to take a break for a second, but Eric does not let her rest. He tells her to get her gear on. After all, he promised Ellen he would get her dinner, so Abby is expected to help him. Abby hopes that Eric is taking her to a market, but based on the gear, it seems they will be catching all the fish alone. Eric stands behind Abby to show her how fishing should be done. When Eric distances himself from her, she asks him to stay close, just for a few more tries. Eric is a patient man. He helps her until she catches her first fish. Abby finally gets a private moment to speak to Jocko. He tells her that the eagles are a big part of who they are and where they come from. The eagle has the power of flight. It guides people through different passages. Abby understands that this may be what her dream is about. There is a reason why eagles are calling upon her in her sleep. Jocko mentions something Alice did not mention. She used to get the same dream. Alice was on a vision quest when she met Jocko, and he was her guard. Abby feels much closer to Alice now that she hears this. She is experiencing the same thing she did years ago. Jocko gives Abby an amulet. He says that it brings power to whoever wears it. He wants the spirit guides to keep her safe and sound. When Abby refuses to wake up in the morning, Eric starts playing the harmonica to annoy her. Abby and Eric take the road again. They walk for hours to the top. Abby asks Eric about Hidden Canyon, another place they are supposed to visit to see the eagles, but she learns that he has only been to Eagle's Crest. Abby worries that the guide does not know his way to the destination, but Eric points out that his task is to show her where Eagle's Crest is located. Abby remembered that Alice told her the eagles are at Hidden Canyon, and that is where she wants to go. Eric tells her that no one has ever found the place, not even Alice. Abby accuses Eric of misleading her, but he admits he never thought she would make it this far. Abby does not want to go back, so Eric leads the way again. Eric and Abby stand before a mountain. Abby immediately refuses to climb it. Eric thinks it is going to be fun. He was like Tarzan as a kid. Abby gets a brilliant idea, and before Eric knows it, he finds her behind him. She reaches the top without climbing. It turns out, there are more ways than one to achieve the goal. Abby thinks Eric should think outside the box more. Eagle's Crest is an unbelievable place. Abby makes it with Eric's help and starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Eric finds that amusing. Abby tells Eric that she used to race home from school as a little girl just so she could look up at the sky and count the birds. Even from a young age, Abby has always been fascinated by birds. It was like magic for her. Eric takes Abby to Eagle's Crest campsite. Abby sets up her tent with difficulty, while Eric makes dinner. At night, he hears Abby snoring from her tent and smiles, finding that adorable. When she wakes up, she finds an eagle's feather, another reminder of the bird's beauty. Abby thinks they are on the right path, especially when they find an eaglet on the way. But Eric tells her not to get her hopes up because it is called Hidden Canyon for a reason. Abby finds Lake George, the one which Alice sketched in her notebook. They take an old raft to get to the other side, but it gets stuck in the middle of the river. When Eric gives it a good pull, Abby ends up falling into the water. As Eric gives her his hand to help her, she pulls him into the river. Eric and Abby have fun swimming in the lake. They think it is refreshing after such a long hike. Abby asks Eric about Jocko's story of the Vision Quest. Eric is taken with Native American spirituality. Although Abby is not sure what she believes, she can't get what Jocko said out of her mind. Eric tells her about interspirituality. Abby can still connect with others' beliefs even if they are not her own. Abby does not know where she is headed, and that scares her. Eric says that maybe she has arrived where she is supposed to be. Not everything needs to be perfect, she can just believe in what she feels connected to. Abby climbs to see if she can spot any nests. Eric keeps encouraging her as she heads up and she finds what she is looking for. She takes photos of the nest, but she almost falls. Eric assures her that he has got her and he helps her all the way down safely. Abby got incredible shots. Abby asks Eric why he did not pursue a career in music. It does not make sense that such a talented guy could be hidden behind mountains as a fish catcher. Eric was a student at Juilliard and Abby can't believe this. He failed because his father made an appearance on the most important day of his life. After a long absence, he showed up in his life out of the blue, and Eric ended up performing a beautiful disaster. Eric blames his dad for his failure and for walking out on his family in the first place. His dad's irresponsibility and lack of commitment is the issue. Eric thinks children should be happy, not abandoned. Alice raised Eric when his mom could not because she died when he was 10. As Abby and Eric are talking, an eagle lands close to them. Eagles mate for life, and that is a source of inspiration for both Eric and Abby. They watch the two eagles fly away. At night, they speak from their tents. Abby tells Eric that she had a lot of fun and Eric is glad she liked the trip. Abby does not recognize the area they reach. She thinks nobody has ever stepped foot on it for at least 50 years. Abby wants all or nothing, so she does not let her doubts bring her down. In the end, Abby and Eric find Alice's lifelong secret, Hidden Canyon. Abby can't believe such a beautiful place exists. It is like an eagle refuge. Abby thinks she has a high technology advantage over Alice. She has so much respect for Eric's grandmother and she understands why keeping the place a secret means so much to her. Eric is glad that he got to discover Hidden Canyon with Abby. The latter is also thankful that Eric brought her there. On the way back to the campsite, they discover a bear there. Eric tells her not to make a single move, or else the creature would be alarmed. Then, he asks Abby to slowly move to higher ground while waving her hands in the air. Eric then starts banging pots and Abby copies his action. The noise scares the bear, so he leaves. Abby manages to capture a picture of the bear, so she sends it to Megan. Eric thinks Alice will be very impressed with Abby. She has exceeded everyone's expectations. Abby thinks there are more eagles than there used to be 50 years ago. Abby discovers a book that Eric seems to like reading a lot. Eric explains that it is written by his favorite poet, Robert Service. It turns out Eric teaches English, more specifically American poetry. Abby smiles, thinking he is a pianist, a fish catcher, a bear whisperer, and a poet. It gets better and better every time she gets to know him more. Eric is a man full of surprises and Abby is never bored around him. Abby wants to hear some of Eric's poems. He tells her that he will email her some when their trip is over. Abby and Eric sit by the fire at night. She thinks they should go back the following morning because she has everything she needs. Eric is glad she found what she was looking for. Abby was not just talking about the research. Abby has always appreciated control in her life. She is a scientist who is passionate about order and measurement. Abby's heart was broken before by her college sweetheart, and since that day, she has been afraid to lose control. She has never stepped out of her comfort zone before, but this trip has got her out of her course. Abby thinks that is what Hidden Canyon is about, which is discovering our purpose. Abby discovers Aurora Borealis and she can't get over its beauty. Eric says that it is beautiful, but he is looking at Abby instead. Eric and Abby get closer and share a kiss. Abby and Eric make it safely back to the lodge. Abby already speaks of it as home. She is excited to see Nico back. She tells him all about the magical journey. Nico speaks about the bear incident even though Abby has not told him about it yet. Eric asks Nico knows about the bear. Nico tells them that Bear Tracker had the picture and the coordinates. Abby does not understand why Megan shared the picture, and Eric is not pleased to hear this. After all, Abby promised him and Alice to keep the location a secret. Abby did not think Megan would send it to him, but because of her, the location is now given away. Abby apologizes to Eric, but he assumes she wanted to boost her career somehow. Abby asks Megan why she sent the bear picture to Harry without her permission. Megan did not think Harry would publish it and she did not mean any harm by showing it to Harry, who specializes in the study of bears in their office. She thought it was cool and she was not aware of Abby's promise to Alice. Because of this, Abby might never publish her study. She blames herself for not handling this carefully. She has always been the type of woman who pays too much attention to details, but she let herself down at the most important moment of her life. Megan tells Harry and her supervisor that they should take down the picture of the bear. Harry tells them that the coordinates they shared did not mention anything about eagles, so they should be safe. Megan feels terrible. Nico tells Eric that he should not give Abby such a hard time. It was only an accident, but Eric hates mistakes. He has tried to contact Alice, but she has not responded. He is now sure that she saw the post. Eric just wants to get away, so he leaves without saying goodbye to Abby. Abby watches him leave with tearful eyes. She calls her supervisor and tells him that the damage is already done, although the picture got taken down. There is nothing she can do now to fix the problem. She has an incredible story to tell, and now she is bound to keep it a secret. The supervisor gives her a brilliant idea to publish her journey in the form of a personal story because Alice said nothing against that. Abby wants to tell the world what the journey meant to her and how her life has changed because of it. Abby has learned so much from the people she met. They all contributed to her success. Abby spends days writing and collecting photographs. She is all alone working on her exciting story. She has so much to say about the lodge, Eagle's Crest, and Hidden Canyon, as well as its people. Her findings are also incredible. Ellen tells Abby that everything happens for a reason. Although Abby keeps blaming herself for revealing the location, Ellen thinks there is a meaning behind the mistake she made. Ellen has been so kind to her, but Abby thinks it is time she goes back home. She has had but a nice time with the people of the lodge, and now she can look back at her experience and her life with a brand new vision. Before Abby leaves, Alice finds her. Ranger George drove her all the way to the lodge. Alice thinks Abby's report is outstanding. She was overwhelmed with how she combined her story with that of Abby. Abby did a good job after all, and she got approved by Alice. Abby thanks the wonderful woman and gives her back her notebook. Before Abby joins them inside the lodge, she wants to say goodbye to the lake one last time. She finds Eric there. They both try to speak at the same time, so they start giggling. Abby apologizes to Eric, but he thinks these things can happen to anybody. Abby does not usually make mistakes. She is always used to perfection in whatever she does, but Eric reminds her that nobody is perfect. Eric had reacted that way because he wanted to protect what Alice worked on for decades. Abby understands this well. After all, that is exactly why she was mad at herself. Eric is pleased to know that Alice loves Abby's peace. Abby has realized that her journey had another purpose, one she did not understand at first. Abby has learned to put herself out there to find her true goal in life. Not everything has to be clear and simple. Some things are beautiful even when they are vague and difficult. Abby has learned to overcome her fears and expose herself to newness. Her future is right in front of her. Eric feels the same way and confesses that he loves Abby. Abby smiles happily upon hearing his genuine words. She thinks Eric is the perfect guy for her. A man as honorable as Eric will always love her and cherish her.